Yn arbennig felly mewn cystadleuaeth sy'n cynnwys Czechoslovacia. Yno mae Enduro yn drydydd yn y rhestr o chwaraeon poblogaidd ar ôl pêl-droed a hoci ar ew, a mae ser yr Enduro yn arwyr cenedlaethol. Jawa, y cwmni cenedlaethol sy'n adeiladu'r beiciau efo llaw, maent wedi cynllunio'n arbennig ar gyfer teithio'r draws gwlad gyda'r chain wedi gorchuddio. Mae llwyddiant yn y 6 diwrnod yn fater o bwysigrwydd cenedlaethol, ac wedi ennill 15 gwaith yn y gorffennol, mae ganddynt siawns dda eleni eto. Bydd gwneud defnydd o'i adnabyddiaeth o'r tir. Jeff Rees o Bontrefedigaid, mab fferm, cefndir tebyg i Geraint Jones, ac un o obeithio'n disglau'r Prydain i'r dyfodol. Mae o'n reidio i dîm Suzuki, Rhaeadr. Mae newyddiadurwyr o bob man drwy'r byd yma i ddilyn y gystadleuaeth. Rhai gyda mwy o frwdfrydedd na synwyr. Dechrau da i Edmondson, yn arwain i grŵp. Mae gan arwr yr Unol Daleithiau Frank Stacey amser i wneud archwiliad munud olaf. Prif obaith Prydain yw Geraint Jones. Yn ffodus erbyn hyn, mae ganddo noddwr newydd, Ffatri KTM o Awstria. Jeff Rees yn refio, ac yn cychwyn yn dda. Prif wrthynebydd Geraint yw'r bachgen di-gynwr o Sweden, Sven-Erik Jonsson. Aled Williams o dîm Cymru yn gwthio tua'r lein. Yn ôl rheolau'r 6 diwrnod, rhaid i'r reidar gychwyn i beic bob bore dim ond wrth i gicio, a hynny o fewn munud wedi'r fflag ddisgyn. Mae methiant Aled i wneud hyn yn golygu colli 60 o farciau, a hefyd wrth gwrs yr anfantais seicolegol o gael dechrau siomedig yr wythnos. Hon yw'r broblem gyntaf ymysg llawer i Aled. Bob dydd mae reidwyr yn wynebu 2 brawf arbennig, sydd yn gyfle da i ennill pwyntiau ychwanegol gwerthfawr. Cystadleuaeth rhwng reidar a'r cloc yw'r rhannau hyn. Mae Edmondson yn gwneud yn arbennig o dda. Cafwyd amserlen arafach ar gyfer yr ail diwrnod, yn ogystal â mwy o ddarnau cyflym, ar y ffordd i lan ymddyfru a choedwig krychan. I'r ail diwrnod oedd yn haws na'r cyntaf, fe fu normod i sawl reidar arall. Doedd dim problem llwch beth bynnag. Gwelwyd cryn ddiddordeb yn llyffant anghyffredin cors krychan, gyda sawl un yn ceisio dal y creadur unigryw hwn. Yn rhyfedd iawn, doedd gan ambell un ddim diddordeb o gwbl mewn manteisio ar y fath gyfle. Ond roedd eraill yn dilyn y creaduriaid bach ar draws gwlad yn brwdfrydig iawn. A rhaid i reidwyr clwb datrys i problemau hunain wrth fynd ymlaen. Mae pob eiliad yn werthfawr i'r timau, ond mae ambell i reidiwr angen mwy na gair o gyngor. Erbyn hyn, am y gorau dwyllo yw hi. Peiriannau, olwynion a hyd yn oed beiciau cyfan yn cael ei cyfnewid. A hynny wrth gwrs yn gwbl groes i'r rheolaeth.
Many times each year, farmers converge on the little town of Wells to sell the products of their everyday unflagging effort. First days of October 1983, they were joined there by several hundred motorcycles and by thousands of people speaking in world as well as almost unknown languages. Naturally, the Czech language could not be missing from this motorcycle Olympiad. This could mostly be heard near and around the Java motorcycles, Barum tires, and the PAL sparking plugs, but also near the Mefo stands, Mefo being a West German firm successfully cooperating with Czechoslovakia's Motokov Foreign Trade Corporation. The handlebars of the motorcycles, kept in an enclosed parking lot, were reminiscent of rams ready to attack. Monday morning, October the 3rd. Time for last-minute preparations and for the riders, managers and jury members to do some justified worrying. It had been raining all through the night, but this was after 3 months of dry weather, so it might not be all that bad after all. Nobody would have guessed that the grass, heath and peatland had become soaked with water like a lot of sponges.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go!
The Welsh flag in the mayor's hand was sending groups of 4 competitors at a time on the track in due succession. Number 33, Josef Macháček of the Czechoslovak World Trophy team.
Go!
Number 38, Leo Maulane of the Netherlands. He had a headache to start with, no doubt looking forward to the next Enduro on home ground, or rather sands. And so, 4 by 4, the teams set out on the track. A total of 355 riders from 17 countries of 4 continents. Some of them smoothly, others, like Greg Harewood of Australia, with some difficulty. Already in our country, the Australians were complaining of too little rain back in their home country, while it never seemed to stop raining in Europe. It was obvious right from the start that this was once again a competition that would be decided not in speed tests, but right in the field, leg by leg. Most riders seemed to have trouble simply keeping left, some of them even before the trial started. Individuals, tandems and whole groups of motorcyclists appeared in the streets of Bělský. And not just the competition riders, but also accompanying teams, some quite numerous, the largest being that from Sweden. They had 120 Husqvarna machines in the competition. There were large numbers of supporting teams, official as well as private ones, flying along the track, often very near the Swedish World Trophy and Silver Vase teams. This was against the rules, but the organizers seemed unable to prevent this contravention. And so it happened that all the difficult sections were crowded by people showing their riders which way to take, and leaving the rest to try and find the right kind of track by themselves. This time, too, tires had one of the most important parts to play. Changing tires was a constant preoccupation, naturally under the opponent's strict supervision, just in case. Particular attention was focused on members of the World Trophy and Silver Vase teams. Kerr of England, too, could see how tricky the Welsh soil can be. The best performance here was shown mainly by riders who still treated the trial as just a prolonged motocross. That takes Barum tires, gentlemen. They don't skid. As shown by Bohumil Poslední of the Dukla Club team of Prague in this speed test. Czechoslovakia's Pošík, riding his 4-stroke Java as the last in the peloton, hardly had an easy time. Few riders were able to gain a minute or 2 by the time they reached the time checkpoints. Most were arriving either within the 3-minute limit or with time loss. By the end of the first day, only 3 competitors were free from penalty points out of 355. 58 had dropped out. While the opening day may have seemed too cruel to some, the next day proved to be far worse than that. a motorcycle edition of a Hitchcock's horror story. That's how many riders described it. This was an opportunity for the many accompanying helpers to warn the competitors of any tricky mud pool. And Mrazek of Czechoslovakia worked wonders. Jan Křivka, Czechoslovakia's representative on the international jury, had warned well beforehand of some of the unnegotiable sections. The chief manager of the competition ruled them out, but what remained was still more than enough. Clouds in the sky, clouds over the Enduro. That's how one might describe the second day. A hard test indeed. Stretches like this were no exception. The riders often complained of being soaked to the skin. After one such water or rather mud bath, many riders had no option but to give up, since they had their machines literally drowned. Others were busy getting rid of the air cleaner, cleaning the plugs and the carburetors, pouring water out of the sump, and then starting up again. This earned them some penalty points for delay, but that was not the most important thing. What had become clear by then was that success could only be hoped for by teams capable of finishing with as many riders as possible. The main thing was to reach the finish. František Mrazek of Czechoslovakia offered a helping hand to whoever was in need, even to the greatest opponents. Czechoslovak accompanying team's Škoda car was traveling like a shuttle to help as many as possible, often from mud into the puddle, rather than from the frying pan into the fire. One by one, teams that had been expected to win were beginning to drop out. Chronic transmission trouble pestered the MZ machines of the GDR, while the Italians were harassed by engine breakdowns. The teams of the GDR and Italy broke up for exactly that kind of trouble. The acceleration test brought little comfort too. Adding a few good points for acceleration to the hundreds of points from the track seemed to make little difference. Far more important things were happening on the track. A few West German riders were expelled from the competition for taking a shortcut. Their management lodged a complaint, but to no avail. And so the FRG teams too joined the ranks of failures. The Swedish teams were in the lead in both main competitions, and deservedly so. For the point was to keep the machines going until the end. This was obviously what the Welshman Tim Hughes of the British Silver Vase team had in mind. Czechoslovakia were not very busy troubleshooting except for the pistons. They were a headache, and not only for them. The reason? The machines were kept going for 8 to 9 hours a day, often spinning the wheels in the mud, as the engines were getting little or no cooling at all. The peat bog traps that marked the end of all hope for so many competitors proved to be a terrible pitfall for the machinery too. The Swedish team's success after 60 years was a success for Husqvarna. The manufacturers had really done their best to win, and failure there would have probably spelled disaster for them. An unpleasant happening marked the final speed test in the field. Following the test lap, Strassenreuter of West Germany placed his machine right across the start, and the rest of the team went on strike, ostensibly because of a piece of barbed wire in the finishing stretch, lining the cattle enclosures there. The true reason, though, was different. The FRG expedition wanted to delay the close of the competition to prevent the speed test from ending by daylight. This would have precluded the practical end of the 6-day trial, and the organizers would have been unable to declare the results. However, the final speed test did take place, albeit with some delay. Another opportunity for Czechoslovak riders to show their good physical condition and the good standard of their machines. Inferior motorcycles would not have brought their riders to the finish. And the Czechoslovaks came in second in the World Trophy and third in the Silver Vase competition. Blue and yellow clearly won the day, with the Swedes carrying away both the World Trophy and the Silver Vase. They were excellent already in France back in 1980, a little less so in 1982, but this time they had done everything to make them hold out right up to the finish. There was only Sandokan, the Italian expedition's mascot, to fight for his country's colors to the very last minute and to come in first in a category of his own. Czechoslovakia have reason to feel satisfaction. This was a clear success for the Java manufacturers and for the country. The organizers, though, must have felt miserable during the closing ceremony. The official results were not available in time, and there was no ceremonial handing over of the trophies either, until late in the night, when at last the Swedes were able to take over the trophies in their hotel. A bit of an anticlimax to what is really the Motorcycle Olympiad. Better luck next time, when the Dutch will be organizing the 1984 6-day Enduro at Assen, the Netherlands.